first question I asked was how long can you wait for core gameplay in a video game? And so this basically this is debatable, I suppose, on what you consider core gameplay. Let's just say let's just say a game starts out cinematic, so you're
Hmm.
just slow walking for the first maybe 10 minutes of the game, and then you're finally given your gun, and the heads up display pops up with the items that you can use. That's what I can personally consider core gameplay. Like with Dark Souls, you're thrown immediately into the core gameplay, but The
Yeah.
Last of Us, it takes maybe 15-20 minutes to finally get your gun, and you're set into the core gameplay. So I'm just wondering, what's your tolerance level? How long can you play until the core gameplay is unlocked?
Um, I mean, I think it depends a lot. Like, for example, Doom 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Have you played Doom?
Oh yeah, yep.
So, the core gameplay is like it's like you kind of get it from the start, like the guns and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a bit related to the question, but like if the core gameplay doesn't really evolve either,
Mm-hmm.
then I get like super turned off of it.
Okay. So I mean, like, how long can you wait it out? Can you do you have like do you have a tolerance cap, or can you just keep playing a game until it's over?
If definitely if the story is very if it's engaging, if the story is engaging, I can like play with like no gameplay and just like keep going forward.
It's like with Persona 5, where apparently it takes 5 hours to finally get into the main gameplay.
Yeah, I can confirm that it is.
So you can
It,
tolerate that.
yeah, I can tolerate it because like the story is engaging, the characters are very fun to interact with, and the turn-based combat and like the art style and everything, it's just a spectacle to just watch all the time.
Wow. Okay.
It's just got so much character to it.
I think I only played an hour and stopped.
You're missing out.
That's what I keep hearing, but man, I can't tolerate dialogue text pop ups. I can't do
Oh,
it. I can't.
yeah, fair enough.
I just wish I could just skip all of it, but they don't let you do it.
There is I mean, you could fast forward, like it just skips all the dialogue just until like your next like important
Yeah,
dialogue choice. Then you choose one and it fast forwards.
I did that a lot, but it's just you would think after an hour of doing that you would finally get to the gameplay, and I was like, yeah, I guess this game's just not for me.
I mean, the tutorial is long, but it is a very
Yeah, and that's kind of a shame too, because I mean I do want to experience it, because it's got a lot of high praise, but I just if I'm bored by the time I get to it, I just don't know if I could do it.
yeah,
You know what I
definitely.
mean? It's
I
kind of
mean,
like.
speaking of Persona 5, like I had a problem like because I only got recently got a PlayStation 5,
Mm,
so I had 90 hours on Persona 5 on the PS. And then when I transferred my save data to the PlayStation 5, I was sent back to hour 65 of my playthrough.
oh, that's another thing that sucks. If you get all your data removed and you have to go through that whole, I don't see how people can play a new game of something like Persona 5 where you had to go through 5 hours of dialogue just to finally get to the game. I don't understand that kind of patience.
I mean, definitely on the first playthrough, you have I think you have a lot more patience because like you experience it for the first time, so you're like waiting to see what happens. But then
Hmm.
like if you have to do it again, it's just not the same.
I guess in a way I kind of can feel I can kind of relate to people that it's like me spending maybe 20 hours or so on a boss in Elden Ring, and people are like, "Man, how in the world do you just fight the same boss for that long?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's just just want to learn more about it." But maybe that's just how they feel in terms of something like Persona 5, where they can spend 5 hours listening to text, and I'm like, "Oh, how in the world do you do that?" You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it comes down to like our preferences in games, like what we're looking for, what we're wanting to experience.
Yeah, and I guess story is just one thing I don't really totally prioritize in gaming, because in the end I'm just trying to play a game, and not listen to a story unless the story is just really compelling. Like The
Mm.
Last of Us, I love the stories in The Last of Us, and then it used to be God of War. I'm not a big fan of what they're doing now, but Resident Evil, I like the stories in Resident Evil. Uh,
I mean, they're very very simple to follow because it's not your in your face. It's just fun to experience
yeah, yeah,
to
and
follow along.
Yeah, exactly. It's not trying to do too much. I enjoy the complexity more in the gameplay than in the story,
Yeah.
um, so to
It's a bit
speak.
like in Nintendo games. Like they don't really like have as a focal point on the story. They're a lot more focused on like the gameplay, like how the experience that they want you to feel through playing the game, and the story's just there to like kind of motivate you a bit forward.
And when it comes to games like Horizon Zero Dawn, where they're just kind of over explaining something like an event that occurred, I'm like, I don't want this to go. I don't want this explained to me. I just want it lightly hinted at. I want it ambiguous, so I can think about it on my own time. I don't want a character sitting there and explain for 30 minutes on why it happened and how it
Yeah.
happened. Um, was there anything else you want to touch on in terms of that? So you say you don't have a time limit. You just pretty much just push on as long as you're interested in the story,
Yeah, or it's not really the story. Like it's also like the gameplay as well. If it's constantly engaging me. So
even
I
if
mean,
it's not the core gameplay.
yeah, I guess I kind of flip flop between those two. Like if the gameplay keeps me going, I keep going. If the story keeps me going, I'll keep going.
Gotcha. Okay.
But then there's Doom. Like I have to go back to Doom. I had to drop Doom completely because the story was practically non-existent, and the gameplay just like it. Once I had all the weapons unlocked, there was nothing like new to it. It was just the same enemies in the same like
Hmm.
locations that looked the same, and I couldn't go on.
I miss when games just had very few cutscenes where it made the cutscene special. Like in God of War, whenever a cutscene came up, I was very excited to see what else was going on in the story. And then you had a few more hours of gameplay, then another cutscene popped up, and you got to see a little bit more of the story. I kind of missed that, and
Yeah.
I guess that's why I really like. That's one of the reasons why I love Death Stranding, because it felt like even though there's a lot of cutscenes, I really appreciated whenever they popped up. Um, Even though it's in-game rendered cutscenes, it's not like pre-rendered like the original God of War games. God of War
Oh
one
yeah.
and two, and even the original Last of Us was pre-rendered cutscenes. But of course, in the PS5 version, it's not pre-rendered anymore.
No.
Um, that was one of my little tiny pet peeves older games because you can change your outfit, but it wouldn't. Of
Changing
course,
the
it wouldn't
cutscene.
change in the cutscenes because it was pre-rendered, like in God of War, where you
Yeah.
could change into a cow outfit or a businessman, and it would cut to the main cutscene. And it's just regular Kratos. I was like,
Yeah.
that's why I loved games like Tony Hawk Underground because in the cutscenes it kept your outfit, but
That's it. Yeah.
also it will change your outfit randomly depending on what's going on in the story. It will just throw a Hawaiian shirt on you, but it was still your character. They just was like, oh, you're wearing this now. Um,
That's yeah.
so anything else you wanted to touch on before I move on?
Uh, if there's good gameplay, you keep going. If there's a good story, I keep going.
Thank you for listening to this podcast clip. If you want to watch more of the podcast, the full podcast is in the link in the description, along with my guest channel name. And if you would like to guest in a future podcast, please contact me and we shall talk so we can discuss many, many topics, more to come. Other than that, have a glorious day.